Guys, I've got an exciting video for you today. I'm going to show you how to take someone else's riff and make it your own. So I'm going to let you hear this little riff that I came up with this morning, but then we're going to talk about the origin of this riff, where this riff came from, and then the changes that I made to the riff to make it my own. I'll walk you through that entire process. So here's the riff. So let's break down this riff. Now, how did I come up with this riff? What inspired this riff here? And I want you to think about this. You may recognize those first two notes that I played. Well, I'll tell you what the riff is. It's actually inspired by Dokken's Kiss of Death. Love me some George Lynch, man. That dude just has this really flavorful and unique style. And I don't know, I could talk for days about George Lynch's playing. I love it. But that's where the riff is originating from. So let me play the George Lynch version here, or the Dokken version here. Okay, so you hear that, and now you can kind of tell where I got the riff from, how I started to build the riff that I had written earlier, which really doesn't sound hardly anything like the Dokken riff at all if you think about it. And I'll play them back to back here in a second. What I did is I just took that very first part of the Dokken riff. I like to take the idea, but I kind of want to get as far away from the idea as possible, if that makes sense. So it's like, okay, well, you can tell that's inspired by, but it's not ripping off the riff, if that makes sense. So what I did, I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm in the key of E minor, and this is one of the first things I do whenever I'm writing riffs in general, okay? I'll take a look at the key that riff is in initially. Okay, we're in E minor here, so I will assess in my head what are the notes in the key of E minor. Well, so in this case, let's just go through them real quick. So we've got an E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D. So E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D. And this is my latest CD. So I know right there we've got 7 total notes to work with, and that's the case in any key. So you know those 7 notes you can work with, and you've got several different ways you can combine them. And you don't have to play single notes. You don't have to stick with that. You can play them as chords as well. So that gives you already endless possibilities. Now, I know some of you saw the video I put out there on my other channel, the Metal Mastermind channel that I co-own with Ken Cadellas, where I talk about how to turn your riff into a full song. But I go a little bit deeper into spelling out the chords and the notes within that key to help you turn riffs into songs. So definitely check that out after you watch this video. But I want to keep it simple for this video here. So just think about the notes. Assess the notes that you're going to use or that you can use within that key that you're playing in, and that's going to help you come up with those other possibilities there. Now, of course, you can do like Ozzy says and breaking all the rules. You can break those rules and hit some flats and sharps or some notes that don't belong just to give it that edge. That's okay too. Don't put yourself in a box, so to speak. And I hope I'm not elaborating too much too soon here, but I think you guys know what I'm saying here. Just assess the notes that you can go to as you're writing this riff, or as you're trying to change this riff to let it inspire you to write a new riff that doesn't necessarily sound like that riff. And I hope this makes sense though, guys. I really hope what I'm saying here makes sense to you. So give the video a thumbs up if it does. If it doesn't make sense, just keep watching, or keep watching anyway. We're going somewhere with this. So what I did, I just took the first part. Instead of going back to heavier notes, as we often have the tendency to do after playing a higher note, especially when we're playing metal, I'm like, let me stay on that D string. There's notes there. Of course, there's notes on every string, but there's some notes right there that's easily accessible that I can play that's within this key. So I'm thinking I'll stay on that D string, and I'll try the notes on the 4th and 5th frets there. Okay, so I did this. Okay, so we've got that little riff right there. So we've already changed the riff that, the Dokken riff, we've already changed it to sound not like Kiss of Death anymore, because now we've added that little flavor there. really doesn't sound anything like Kiss of Death at this point. I mean, you're just hitting that very, very first part of that, which you can probably name 100 metal songs that start that way with the same note. So we've already started to shy away from it sounding too much like somebody else's song, okay? What we did after that, or what I did after that, was I went back over to the A string and I do a little hammer-on pull-off to even separate it even more from the Kiss of Death song. And I said, hey, let me throw some chords, some power chords in there as well, which I didn't just do regular power chords. I played those variations of power chords that I've talked about. Of course, you go through these types of chords in my Metal Riff Master guitar course. There's a link to that in the description as well. A lot of links are going to be in the description of this video, so you're going to have a wealth of just information to study and use to help you as a guitarist. So that's, the point of my channel. It's the point of me being here for you. All right, I'm here for you. I'll be there for you. Oh, now we're doing Bon Jovi. Guys, let's not go there. Actually, I like some Bon Jovi, but that's just going down a completely different path. All right, so let's do a side-by-side comparison of these riffs. Let's make sure that my riff that I just wrote for you on this video doesn't sound too much like the Kiss of Death. So I'll play Kiss of Death first, that first little part there. Then I'll play my riff, and then you can tell me if it sounds, like, hey, Jason, this is just a little too close, man. Or if you're like, no, dude, actually that sounds like a completely different riff. So let's hear it. Kiss of Death. Stock passive pickups, and I can get that squill out of these things. I attribute that to the EVH here. All right, before we get carried away, here's the riff that I wrote. I want you to tell me if this sounds too close to Kiss of Death, or if it's like, nope, Jason, it's a different riff, dude. You nailed it. Now, if that riff sounds too much like Dokken's Kiss of Death, I can make some more revisions to that riff if I want to. Or you can make more revisions to your riff, right? If you write a riff, you're like, man, this is just too close to that Metallica song or that Megadeth song, or the Testament, whatever song you're playing, Queensryche. This is just, it's a little too close. What I encourage you to do at that point is to go back to that riff and just look at some other areas that you can change, you can modify, right, within that riff. One of the things that I would go to right away is just that very first part of the riff, right? That very first part of the riff, because that's the part, if you're going to tell me it sounds like Dokken, like some of you may say, well, no, it's completely different, you're fine, but if you think that it still sounds too much like Dokken's Kiss of Death, I would change that first part, because that's probably the part that sounds too much like Dokken's Kiss of Death. So this, I would need to change that part. So let me try to come up with something else for that little piece there. Let's see what I can do. Now, I think we can all agree that even if my other riff sounded like Dokken's riff, what we just did changed the entire thing. Just changed it, hands down. Completely different riff now. And this is kind of a strategy I want you to think about as you're writing riffs, because we all are inspired by other music, and that's okay. That's okay. But as you're writing riffs, you don't necessarily want to play those riffs all the time, even as you're learning them. And when you're writing your own riffs, you certainly don't want to rip off someone's riff. You don't want to do that, because that just kind of it's just not the right thing to do. All right, so these are things that you can do, though. You can play the riff, right? Play the Dokken riff or whatever riff. Start adding to it. Start kind of making it your own, changing things around. Then play it again and then compare it, right? I encourage you to record this stuff. Just record it in your studio, right? Or even record it on your phone. Record yourself playing the actual riff that you're learning from the other band or artist, and then go back and record yourself playing your version of that, the changes with the changes that you made, and listen to those two very carefully. And you'll be able to tell, okay, well, I like my riff, it's cool, I really made this my own, but you know, maybe it still kind of sounds like that other riff. Let me see what else I can do with that. And then, as you just heard, you change those little parts that sound too much like the other riff, and you have a completely new riff, like hands down completely. Like what we just played sounds nothing like Kiss of Death now, right? So it just took us going back to the drawing board one more time, saying, okay, well, maybe it's still a little too close. Let's change that part now. You've got a new riff that's yours, you own it, and of course I want you to do something with it after that. Now at this point, if you want to go catch that video I was talking about earlier that's on the Metal Mastermind channel on how to turn your riff into a complete song, I go through a 7-step strategy on there. Again, that's on my other channel, Metal Mastermind, so while you're over there, make sure you're subscribed to that channel as well. But yeah, definitely go check that video out. I've also, again, got the link to that video in the description of this video here, along with the links to my free practice guide and my metal guitar course, Metal Riff Master. All that good stuff is in the description of this video. But guys, let me know what you think about this little process here that we went through, and more importantly, let me know if this helped you or not, because that's the goal of my videos, guys. That's the goal of these videos I put out for you. I want to give you something that you can walk away with and you can use it and it works. It just simply makes your life easier when it comes to guitar. And maybe it makes your life easier in other areas too. Who knows? So guys, again, thank you for being a part of this. You know what to do until next time, right? Yes, you do. Keep it metal.